I swerved hard to the right and missed a woman carrying a baby by maybe 6 inches. She shot between 2 stalled cars without looking back. The thing chasing her had most of its throat missing and one arm folded backward. But still, it kept its pace. 32 prisoners slammed left in their seats behind me, chains snapping tight across the steel rails as the bus climbed the curb and tore a newspaper box out of the concrete. The zombie apocalypse was in full fucking swing. Everywhere I looked, people were dying. They were being pulled down on sidewalks, dragged through broken storefronts, crushed between cars whose drivers had forgotten traffic laws existed. The street was littered with shoes, phones, dropped bags, and pieces of people that had either been chewed off or knocked loose by vehicles moving far faster than mine. It was an absolute fucking madhouse. And there I was, driving a prison bus through the middle of it. Behind me sat murderers, armed robbers, repeat offenders, and 3 guys whose biggest mistake was getting caught with a little too much weed. They were cuffed at the wrists, chained at the waist, and secured in pairs to the rails beneath their seats. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have trusted half of them with a plastic spoon. These were not normal circumstances. I passed a city bus jackknifed across the opposite lanes. Its doors hung open. Every window was smeared red from the inside, and the passengers were still moving around in there, throwing themselves against the glass when we passed. At least mine were still moving without trying to devour the living. Grant Bridge, Officer Dawes said from the passenger seat. He held the radio close to one ear and the dashboard with his other hand. Guard says they're closing it in 16 minutes. Closing it how? The radio answered before he could. All West Sector units. Final crossing ends at 1910. Demolition follows immediately. Do not stop on the span. Dawes looked at me. That's how. The bridge was 4 miles away. 4 miles of downtown traffic, abandoned cars, and several thousand dead people who had apparently decided the middle of the road was the place to be. Something hammered against the security partition behind us. "Driver!" a prisoner shouted. "You need to stop this damn bus!" "Sit down!" Dawes yelled. "Row 6 is biting people!" I looked in the mirror. Men were climbing over one another despite the chains holding them down. One inmate had twisted sideways across the aisle. The man attached to him was kicking so hard that his heel punched through the padding on the seat ahead. Blood covered both of them. "He got bit at the courthouse," somebody shouted. The infected man lifted his face from his partner's neck. Then, a delivery van shot through the intersection ahead of us. I hit it broadside. The van spun away. Our windshield fractured into a white web. The steering wheel punched my ribs and the bus fishtailed through 3 lanes before I got it straight. Something heavy tore loose underneath us. A warning buzzer started screaming from the dash. Dawes shoved open the firing port in the partition and drew his sidearm. "Move away from him! We're fucking chained to the bastard," someone yelled back. The infected inmate lunged again. Dawes fired once. The shot hit the man below his eye and threw him against the window. The man bounced off of it, snapped his teeth together, and kept moving. "Head," I said. "You have to hit the head." "I did hit the head." "Then fucking hit it more." The second shot ended it. Nobody had time to react because 3 people came sprinting from between the buildings and threw themselves against the side of the bus. One vanished beneath the wheels. Another caught the mirror and hung there, punching his forehead against my window until the skin peeled back. I scraped him off on a light pole. The temperature needle climbed into the red. "We have to stop," I said. "If we stop, we die." Steam rolled from beneath the hood and covered the windshield. I could no longer see the street, the bridge signs, or the bodies bouncing under the front axle. If that engine locks, we die farther from the bridge. I turned onto the River Parkway and let the bus grind onto the shoulder beneath the only working streetlight for half a mile. The engine coughed twice and quit. For a second, there was nothing but the ticking of hot metal and 31 men shouting from behind us. Then, bloody hands began striking the rear windows. Not the prisoners. The dead had followed us out of downtown. Dawes checked his magazine. 9 rounds. I've got 6. There are like 50 of them out there. A broad-shouldered inmate pushed his way to the front of the cage. His name was Malik Boone. Armed robbery, 12-year sentence, and according to the paperwork I'd barely read that morning, 10 years repairing city vehicles before that. "Pop the hood," he said. Dawes laughed once. "Sure, then what? We let you drive?" "Then I fix whatever your boy broke before we're all lunch." The first body hit the rear doors hard enough to bend them inward. Boone raised his cuffed hands. "You can keep following procedure if you want. Just understand procedure has about 2 minutes left." Dawes turned toward me. "Don't even think about it." I took the restraint keys from his belt. "Open the partition," I said. "Are you out of your fucking mind?" "Completely. Now open it." The look he gave me would have gotten me written up under any other circumstances. Then, the rear windows cracked and pale fingers pushed through the bars. Dawes opened the partition. I unlocked Boone first. He snatched the keys, freed the man chained beside him, and tossed them down the aisle. Chains started hitting the floor. 30 seconds later, I had a bus full of unrestrained inmates and absolutely no plan beyond hoping the zombies killed us before the prisoners did. Boone grabbed the emergency toolkit. "You two keep the door clear." "You run," Dawes said, "and I'll shoot you." Boone stared through the front window at the bodies surrounding us. And where the fuck would I go? We opened the front door together. The first dead man came through it before it was halfway open. Dawes shot him in the forehead. I drove my baton into a woman's temple and shoved her under the steps, while Boone jumped over both of us. 6 prisoners followed, armed with a fire extinguisher, 2 steel seat braces, and links of their own chain. The roadside turned into a slaughterhouse. The dead didn't care who had a badge and who had a number printed across his back. They rushed all of us. Boone disappeared beneath the hood. A prisoner swung his chain around an infected man's throat and pulled him backward while another crushed his skull with the fire extinguisher. Someone screamed behind the bus. 2 inmates broke for the trees. Neither made it 20 yards. "The hose split," Boone shouted. "Give me 60 seconds." "You have 30 seconds. Dawes fired past my shoulder, then grunted and stumbled into me. I thought he'd slipped in the blood. He shoved me away and pulled his sleeve down over his wrist. I saw the bite anyway, and he saw me see it. "Get them on the bus," he said. There wasn't time to argue. The dead were spilling from the tree line now, drawn by the gunshots and the engines hissing. We backed up the steps while the prisoners dragged Boone with us. He slammed the hood and shouted for me to start it. The engine turned once. Nothing. The rear doors buckled again. I tried a second time. The engine caught with a metallic shriek, and I dropped it into gear before everyone was inside. One prisoner missed the handrail. Boone caught his jumpsuit and dragged him across the steps as the bus lurched back onto the road. The bridge was 2 miles away. We had 7 minutes. Dawes sat beside me, pressing his bitten wrist to his knees. Sweat ran down his face despite the cold air pouring through the cracked windshield. "How long?" I asked. "Drive." "Dawes, I said drive." Behind us, the inmates fought something crawling through a broken side window. Bloody palms slapped against the glass. A length of chain whipped across the aisle. Somebody got the creature around the neck, and 3 men pulled until its head struck the bars with a wet crack. Grant Bridge appeared ahead. Military floodlights washed the entrance. Concrete barriers narrowed 6 lanes to 1, and soldiers were already dragging the final barricade into position. Beyond them, the center of the bridge rose over the Black River. I hit the horn and held it down. The radio exploded with voices.
"Transport bus, stop immediately. Do not approach the barricade."
"Not happening," I said. Dawes started laughing, but it came out wrong. I looked over just as his head snapped toward me. His eyes had gone cloudy. His seatbelt locked when he lunged, stopping his teeth inches from my face. But his hand caught the steering wheel and pulled. The bus slammed into the concrete divider. Sparks flooded the windshield. Prisoners crashed across the aisle. Boone came across the open partition and wrapped a loose chain around Dawes' throat. Dawes clawed at him, teeth snapping, while I fought the wheel with both hands. "Get him off of me!" "I'm trying." Boone planted a foot against the dashboard and pulled. Dawes' head struck the window once, twice, then a third time, hard enough to leave a red star against the glass. Finally, he stopped moving. We hit the barricade at 40 miles an hour. The bus tore through it. Soldiers dove out of the lane. Gunfire cracked over the roof as they opened up on what was coming behind us. The entire parkway had filled with dead. They poured onto the bridge in one solid mass. 3 minutes, Boone shouted. Halfway across, we found a tractor trailer jackknifed over 2 lanes. A concrete wall boxed us in on the left. The trailer left barely enough space on the right for the bus. I didn't slow down. The right side of the bus scraped the trailer with a sound like the world being ripped open. Windows burst. Hands reached through the bars. The prisoners fought them with chains, boots, broken seat frames, anything they could lift. One man was pulled face first into the bars and went limp. Another kept hammering the arm around his throat until somebody broke it at the elbow and dragged him free. The temperature gauge buried itself beyond red. The engine began knocking. The far barricade was closing. "Come on," I said, though I wasn't sure if it was meant to the bus, the soldiers, or God. The engine blew as the front wheels rolled off the far end of the bridge. There was a hard bang beneath my feet. The power steering died. Every warning light on the dash came on at once, and the bus rolled forward on nothing but its remaining speed. Soldiers scattered as we crossed the line. We hit the final barrier sideways and stopped. "Off!" I shouted. "Everybody, off the bus!" The surviving inmates spilled through the front door. Boone grabbed Dawes' pistol, then thought better of it and left it on the floor. I was the last one down the steps. The bridge charges detonated before my boots reached the grass. The blast lifted me off the ground. The center span folded into the river, taking hundreds of dead with it. Concrete, steel, and bodies disappeared into black water, while the shockwave rolled over us and shattered what remained of the bus windows. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Boone rolled onto his back beside me and started laughing. "So," he said, breathing hard, "we still going to Ridgeway?" I looked back across the burning city. I think our schedules changed. 11 prisoners made it across. The National Guard put them back in handcuffs before anyone received water, because apparently some procedures survive anything. I never saw Boone after quarantine. I don't know whether Ridgeway was still standing, whether his sentence mattered anymore, or whether anybody remembered that 2 of the men we saved were only there because of weed. I know the bus made it across. I know I was still behind the wheel when it did. And in those first 23 minutes of the zombie apocalypse, that was about as close as anyone got to a happy ending.